By the end of this video, I want to basically explain to you why Denji as a character is, for lack of better words, a deeper quote-unquote trope than you think, especially when it pertains to the, I guess, comparison to this day and age young men, as far as this day and age's young men of today, right? So if you know about Chainsaw Man going forward, if you know about Chainsaw Man, you know that Denji as a character is almost like pathetic, right? You would think that like he grovels on his knees to like and he barks, you know what I mean, whenever what's her name, Makima, tells him to, whenever she asks him to do something, he's automatically on it. He's a fiend for Makima, right? Some people will label it as her quote-unquote control that she has over him, because she is literally the control devil. But I think that the control, aka the control devil, is more so it's a depiction of the entitlement of today's young lady. You understand what I mean? A lot of the times that I go over my thoughts about Denji as a character, people love Denji, right? Well, let me get this straight. People love Denji. Like, there's a vast amount of people that love Denji. If that wasn't the case, they wouldn't have multiple movies that's in theaters that's doing box office numbers, because of how much people love Denji as a character. If they didn't love Denji, they would never love Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man is over the top. He doesn't say anything. He don't have no taglines. He's just a tough ass chainsaw attached to a man's body. That's another thing I want to talk about. The tool. Men are seen as tools to the world, not just women, also to other men. Denji, again, I can't stress this enough. Denji as a character represents a lot of young men, specifically in the 2020 and going forward in the future, but I'm gonna just say 2026. And one of the reasons is the fact that a lot of men have given up, especially when it comes to relating to their counterparts, their gender counterparts. Women. A lot of women feel that they should control men. Let's just keep it a buck. When it comes to Denji as a character, and you go about, if you read the manga, Denji, it seems as though he's just trying to get laid, dog. I'm not gonna hold you. It seems as though a lot of the times when Denji as a character, he wants to be a good person. He wants to be a good man, right? A good fucking, I wouldn't say human being, but he wants to be a good, for lack of better words, a good man, right? But Denji, deep down inside of his body, he has a devil. You understand what I mean? And there's deeper meanings, especially when it comes to Makima. And like I said before, my personal belief is that Makima as a character represents a lot of entitlement of women. Hear me out. The reason why I say that is because if you read into the manga, if Makima does not get her way, shit hits the fan. Quietly sometimes, but it hits the fucking fan. And she controls everybody. People really do love Makima, but nobody's calling out the elephant in the room. Makima needs control. You understand what I mean? She needs control. I think that a lot of the times when I think about Makima as a character, I think about the aspect of, like, basically, give me a minute. I think about the aspect of she is the control demon or the control devil, and she's very strong because we as human beings, even us as men, we need control. We do need control over our environment, over what we are, as far as our goals, our life. You understand what I mean? But the funny thing, the weird part about how art imitates life is the aspect of, in this day and age, when it comes to the quote-unquote dating crisis within America, specifically within America, I see that what's going on in Asia and China and even in Japan, as far as the marriage crisis, like, and the baby crisis. Men and women are not coming together, for lack of better words, to procreate or to live together. And it's become so fascinating that a lot of people are doing articles, a lot of people are reading and basically trying to figure out, why do men just can't get it right? That's what they keep. I remember somebody was making a video about the Psych2Go thing. Even Psych2Go, a popular 13 million subscribers. I even watch Psych2Go. Okay, side note, I'm looking at the channel of Psych2Go, and it seems to me that they're basically milking algorithm for that content, which is kind of sad because of the platform specifically. But it seems to me that they keep going back to specifically a content of either masturbation, sex, and how it says it's not about sex. I guess how our minds shape with sex. I mean, I'm not sure, but it's weird. But it's like damn near every, usually it's like 4 lines of videos, and every other 4th line, it deals with either masturbation or porn almost, or sex. And I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't talk about these things. It's just that it does seem like it is a cashy, grabby type of way that they're promoting their videos to talk about the dopamine aspects of masturbation and pornography. And I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't know. Like their latest video was just one day ago, and it says sudden sexual urges, and it doesn't usually have their iconic character, you know what I mean, their iconic avatar. But that's neither here nor there. It just looks like Psych2Go is moving in a direction that's basically milking the algorithm, which is sad, but that's the way that this platform is made, you know what I mean? So that's another that's another place that I can't go for takes that could be more advantageous towards learning rather than towards the algorithm. But back to the main video. A popular channel that discusses the aspects of how mental health will unravel itself within our lives, right? And they went, for lack of better words, they tried to explain within 3 minutes, which is kind of crazy, because I don't think that you should do that within 3 minutes, because it's basically making everything within a vacuum, right? Or for lack of better words, it generalizes the state of men, and specifically young men, but the state of men in general, and their thought processes about their relationship to women or their companionship to women. You understand what I mean? They brought up Pornhub. You know what I mean? When in doubt, porn. You know what I mean? That's what Psych2Go said. When in doubt, porn. As if women are not human beings as well. As if women do not consume porn as well. You understand what I mean? Yes, you may have a tick of how much men do it more, or for lack of better words, they probably bring up the articles and the numbers. But the main thing is that they tried to explain that there was an uptick in men going straight to Pornhub during COVID. Okay, there was a lot of people inside of their house. Psych2Go. Everybody was doing that. You understand what I mean? Young, old, women, men, LGBT, straight. It was a lot of people staying inside because of government officials saying that you need to stay your ass inside. When even companies I say companies, well, I guess Psych2Go is technically a company right now, but when even platforms like Psych2Go quote unquote explain the male crisis, it's almost like it does a disservice to young men, because first of all, the video was like less than 4 minutes long. That's all you need to know right there to quote unquote explain the male crisis. You know what I mean? So this is why I'm trying to make sure that I cover all points. Denji represents a lot of young men in America. Denji represents a lot of young men in general. You understand what I mean? And I say young men, but he also represents men that's my age, in their 30s, 40s. You understand what I mean? The 40-year-old virgin was something to laugh at. Back in the 2000s, the 40-year-old virgin, people laughed at that. But there were literally 40-year-old virgins. You understand what I mean? And as we grow into the aspect of what are men doing wrong, nobody questions the Makimas of the world. You understand what I mean? This is not, once again, I want to be clear, this is not a blame game. This is just the aspect of, if we are going to question the state of men, why do we act like men are on this planet by themselves? You understand what I mean? This goes back to the aspect of the vacuum state of explaining the quote unquote male crisis. You understand what I mean? The male dating crisis, for lack of better words. Why men cannot find themselves dating young women or find themselves with young women. Nobody talks about the aspect of women are also going through a crisis of their own. Nobody talks about the aspect of how women are more likely to be depressed in this day and age. Does that even compute in how the relation to men and the men and men's relations to women and women's relations to men? These things are not by themselves and separate. We interact with each other as human beings on a day-to-day basis, whether we're going to work, going to the grocery store, whether we're interacting with each other on social media platforms. You understand what I mean? And yes, I will give it to the aspect of sometimes social media will exacerbate these issues to the point where we feel as though it's kind of like the loud minority, if that makes any sense. There's small issues that sound big because a lot of the people that are speaking on them are loud, right? But I want to go back to Denji in the aspect of Denji's character represents a lot of men in general, because men want to get it right, if that lacks a better word. For lack of better words, men want to get it right. A lot of the times, Denji in the story, he questions himself multiple times. Denji questions himself so many times in that book. He questions his humanity. He questions his manhood. He questions his ability to perform as said tool, mind you. And he also says, if this is what women, specifically, if this is what Makima, for lack of better words, I'm trying to get you to understand why it relates to men. If this is what Makima, aka women, want me to be, which is a superhero or a tool, because this is what she said she wanted, and this is what she said she'll give me if I do this. You understand what I mean? Right? This is what society has done to young men. If I go out, get my job, get my degree, if I go out and actually, quote unquote, be a good man, be a good guy, for lack of better words, then I should see, quote unquote, rewards. These type of rewards. How many times have we talked about the aspect in this day and age? How many times have you seen videos, discussions, talks about young men are not even able to get jobs in this day and age, or they go to school, get out of school with all of this debt, and then come to find out you get out of school, all this debt, and there's no jobs for the. Are you serious? So I went to 75 to 100,000 to school just to get out and be without a job, or quote unquote interning. You understand what I mean? Do you get where I'm going at? So when it comes to the comparison that I believe that that Denji had hit in his comparison to young men, I think that it's more so the aspect of he's misunderstood. Denji is misunderstood as a character. He's a very good character, I believe, as far as the character development. I love the fact that they made Denji who he is, because he does represent a lot of men. We as men want to just be able to, first of all, get it right and be of service to our counterparts. You understand what I mean? There's this new character, spoilers ahead, but there's this new character that's basically supposed to represent, again, spoilers, click off. There's this new character that's supposed to represent Makima after she dies, right? But even Denji's association with her, he doesn't even want to, at first he doesn't even want to take her on, because they just kind of just shoves her onto him. You know what I mean? The world just kind of shoves her onto him. The government, the what do you call it? The government, the Devil's Association. They shoved this new Makima onto him. And it almost reminds me of how society shoves women, no matter what type of quality of the character of that woman is, because if she's a woman, it's automatic that she's a good woman. To a lot of the world, because a woman is a woman, even to women. And it's why a lot of women's thoughts are so entitled now. But because a woman is a woman, she's automatically entitled to a man. We don't never question it. We don't never judge it. You understand what I mean? But same thing goes for the men, right? It's vice versa. What type of character do you have before you just push that person on that, right? But I digress. Because of the aspect of her being related to, I say related to her being the new Makima, right? Her being the new control devil. They push this young lady onto Denji. And he does not want to be attached to her. He doesn't, because he just went through what he went through with Makima. I'm not totally gonna say this, but I will say this to the young men. I don't believe that you should give up. I do believe that you should keep trying, because that's all you're going to get in this world. If you keep trying, even though you may hit your head against the wall a couple of times, you learn from those. You learn from that. That's the best thing about learning. And I'd rather you learn at this early of an age than to learn at 40, at 50, at 60. Because you know what else they talk about you know what else they don't talk about as far as a lot of these platforms that discuss the male loneliness epidemic? Men usually want to be alone. Have you seen those memes about the aspect of men basically being okay with a bed on the air mattress on the floor, a TV on the floor, and a refrigerator? Men will be okay with that. A lot of men will look at those pictures and be like, yes, I get that. I understand that. Yes, we can upgrade later on, but that's okay. That's good. You understand what I mean? So it's like, just imagine showing that to a woman. I'd be damn. You understand what I mean? I'd be damn if she just be like, yeah, I'll live like that. You know what I mean? The male loneliness epidemic is a facade. Yes, men are depressed. Yes, men are lonely at times. But, and I say this as I want to be careful on when I say this, but we as human beings are both. It's a more of an aspect of both of us are lonely. Let's just keep this totally on both sides. I said it before on the aspect of nobody speaks on the aspect of how many more women are taking pills to cover their depression and their mental emotional state of this day and age. You can see the articles. It's all over the news. And it's what I mean? So when we talk about the male loneliness epidemic, what is the contributing factors? It's not a vacuum. You understand what I mean? And there is a lot of women. There is a lot of men that literally are like Dingy. They're just trying to figure out how they can be better service to their counterparts or to the world in general. I want people to like me because I feel intrinsically like a good person. Intrinsically, I am a good person. You understand what I mean? And if I become a quote unquote superhero, the world will actually love me. A lot of men look at their lives like this. If I become a man that becomes a lawyer or a doctor, or if I go to school, you understand what I mean? If I do this, you know what I mean? If I become this for my mother or my sister or my brother. But the thing is that people are not realizing that a lot of the times those acts of service are less often rewarded. Nobody wants to talk about that. And yes, you would say, well, why don't you just do it because you just want to do it rather than doing it for a reward? Nothing in this world is done without a reward. Nobody, even women, because the first thing I think about is a job. Who the fuck is going to work without a reward? You go to work for a reward. You go to school for a reward. You understand what I mean? Let's stop this. When you marry somebody, it is a reward. It is. I know people want to say I'm doing this whether you do, but let's stop this shit. Right? It's so fantastical when people look at relationships without conditions. There is no such thing as unconditional love unless you are the mother or father of that child, and even that is a slither, less than 1%, where a person can commit murder. A child can commit murder purposely to a person, and that mother or father says, I still love you, baby. So before we go deep down that rabbit hole, let me just make sure that that's clear. This society has always, since the dawn of man, been built off of rewards. And Dingy, as a character, has become a character that is literally seeking the reward of not only just life, but the reward of companionship, the reward of his association with the devil association. You understand what I mean? The devil killing association. It's just a matter of seeking out what makes Dingy happy. And the thing is, I see that a lot of videos coming up that says maybe a lot of men are quietly giving up. And I've seen multiple times where Dingy is literally doing that. You know what I mean? Whether it was a point in time where he literally gave up on being Chainsaw Man. But the world needed him to be Chainsaw Man. The world needed him. You understand what I mean? And it's like, but what's the reward? What is the reward? You understand what I mean? So again, when I talk about the aspect of how relatable and how the comparison of Denji is to young men, the secret little sauce in this is how relatable Makima is to young women and women in general, right? Just same thing with Denji is and Chainsaw Man is to young men and men in general. I think this Psych2Go really did themselves a disservice with how they explained the quote-unquote male loneliness epidemic, because they failed to realize that there's more than just men on this planet. And there's more, not only is there more than just men on this planet, but men are not the only ones going through the same excessive amounts of porn. You understand what I mean? Or the same excessive amounts of mental health issues when it comes to depression, or the same excessive amounts of what is this for? I want to be able to live and cohabitate with a man, or vice versa. I want to live and cohabitate with women, but it's just like they're not getting it. They're not understanding. It's not coming together. It's not cohesive. You understand what I mean? So I wanted to make a video about this earlier, and I kind of did it, but I didn't publish it, I don't think. And before I end this video, I guess the answer to this, I guess the ending or a conclusion that I can come to for the end of this video is, I believe is there an answer, is there a solution to this? And I think that the solution, my personal belief is the solution is, which is maybe a little bit looking at the world on some kumbaya shit, which is a part of the problem as well. We do need to be more empathetic to both men and women. I think that the main thing is that we also, for lack of better words, we have always been discussing the ills and qualms and issues of men, but we have rarely have time to divulge into the issues and qualms and grievances of young women. And when I say the issues and qualms and grievances, I do not mean how it relates to men. I mean just by themselves. Because a lot of the times when we discuss women and their qualms or grievances, it somehow always ties back to a man. But when men have grievances, it's solely a man's fault. Why do you are not able to handle this world? Why are you not able to for lack of better words, why aren't you able to man up? Why can't you just be Chainsaw Man, do your job, and be okay? Because you're a villain, right? You're the strongest man in the world. What's the issue? You understand do you get where I'm going with this? So again, I go back to the empathy. When I say empathy, it's not sympathy, people. Don't be sympathetic. Sympathy is a difference between empathy. Empathy, I think that this is why I believe that I understand why people say that you can never be empathetic with the other sex, because you don't understand what they go through. You understand what I mean? I can understand that aspect. But all people are humans, right? So you feel the same fucking emotions. May not be the same way that they come to you, but you feel the same emotions. Just like men are depressed, women have become depressed as well. You understand what I mean? Excuse me. And vice versa. Just like women are depressed, men have become depressed as well. I think that the issue is when we separate them and we try to make it seem as though man has their own issues that basically has no relations to women, and women have their own issues that relate to men. That's how we describe our world nowadays. Why the qualms and issues of men is solely a man's issue, and he needs to fix himself. The women's side is the qualms and grievances of women are solely men's issues, and men need to fix it. Do you understand the issue? It's almost, for lack of better words, it's oxymoronic. It's a little bit of cognitive dissonance, because we see the issue, we state the issue, but we don't want to accept the issue. You understand what I mean? I might make some more videos about this. It's a deeper, darker. You understand what I mean? That's why I love this. I'm about to actually crack open some Chainsaw Man right now, but it's a deeper, darker aspect behind Denji. And it's a reason why so many people relate to Denji as a character. You know what I mean? Not just men, but shit, even some women. Clearly, you know what I mean? it has done numbers in the box office when it comes to that movie. Very good animation, and I mean that plays a part, of course, the animation, but I really do believe it's the story. It's definitely the story, and specifically the character Denji. Denji should not be, Denji as a character, we think about it, Denji as a character by itself should not be so popular, but he is. Why? Because he's so relatable. That's all I wanted to say. Like that, we gone. Bun K.